And welcome everyone to this segment on single parenting in 24 hours of rare. It is so good to have Patricia Welton and Nina Dea, and also hopefully will be joining us will be Alicia Camp. And going to be discussing the role and some of the things that you have to cope with, deal with, how you do things as a single parent. And great admiration for you and what you're doing with this. So what I'd like to do is that if you would just take a minute and let's go around. Patricia, we'll start with you. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and your organization, and then we'll kind of go. We'll go with it from there, and then we'll go to Nina.
Okay, so Patricia Welton, and I run Beyond the Diagnosis. We're an art exhibit, a traveling art exhibit. We have artists from all over the world that donate portraits and of kids with rare diseases from all over the world. It's really amazing. We have artists as far away as Bali and kids from you know, Ghana. And so we're really, really working to get, everybody included. We all know that rare diseases is not a problem just in the United States. So we want everybody to be seen. And it's been just phenomenally successful and has exceeded all of our expectations. I thought, oh, let's have, 17 in our first exhibit, 17 portraits. And now we have almost 200, and I did not expect this to happen. So we're just really, really happy that it's been so it's so engaging to people who see it and want to be part of the rare diseases.
And let me give this a plug too. So in our networking lounges, there is a link that will take you out to the virtual art tour that Patricia's talking about. Definitely worth the while to go out, log on, and take a tour of that. There is just some beautiful works of art there. And thank you for that contributing. Thank you for what you do. Nina,
Never before seen video portraits either. We saved them for months, so no one
yeah,
could see them. And see, we wanted to keep it to be, like, whoa, we haven't seen these before. So, I mean, some of them are, but yeah. So we're very excited about the tour. A lot of hard work went into it.
oh, absolutely. I know the last time that we talked, you said that the artists were still even scrambling to get their
Yes.
final touches on their paintings, and that's what they were going to be doing before they went on display.
We had two come in the day before we were going live with the
Oh my
first
God.
event. And I was like, wow. So yes, I know how you feel with, the technical, this part of that stuff, but yes,
Yeah.
and we were worried that it might crash. So we had to have somebody watching it all the time, depending on how many people would go on it at the same time.
Yeah.
But yes, but if you don't see it today, we will be making it public. It won't be at private events. It will be made at public events. So we have a website for it called Artfully Rare, which is
Yeah.
what we call the exhibit. And it'll be up there for anyone to just go, and it'll be right. You just go right into the tour. So
Fabulous. Nina, it's so great to have you. I have never spoken with you personally before, just over email. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I know Patricia from her work. So Patricia, so excited to see your exhibit. I have a rare teen. So if you need another portrait, and if she'll sit, I'd love to volunteer her, but
oh, that's awesome.
I really love your work. Actually,
You.
my background is, there's a lot, I guess I've done and hope to do, but just being a parent of rare teen has been a journey that I wouldn't trade. It has been a little challenging as an advocate because I think I didn't really know what advocacy was until I started advocating. But my background is supporting basically general, anyone that has a rare prognosis or is a patient. That's my passion. My daughter happens to be diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy type 2. So 15 years ago or about 14 and a half years ago when she was diagnosed, there wasn't a lot in the pipeline for drugs and so forth, but things have changed in all those years. And we are one of the lucky few, and hopefully there'll be more breakthrough medicines for olive rare. But I'm also returning as an entrepreneur in the environmental health space as well, to really hopefully introduce technology to rare groups and to people that are compromised when it comes to the air. But my passion definitely is just raising awareness for different groups, not only rare, but patients in general. So if I can volunteer, I will usually try and say yes to volunteering when I can. But that's kind of my experience with rare. There's more people joining. Yay.
Oh, we can't hear you, Jeff.
If you're muted.
Yeah, that would help.
I thought you looked animated for someone who was just sitting there.
Thank you. Thank you for telling me. Oh, I have to ask because I know that, like right now, Eden is actually at an appointment with our daughter, Cambria, that is there while we're doing, because, the world doesn't stop just because, we're doing this. But, I know that we split a lot of our stuff and time doing it. How in the world do you all manage your schedule? Tell me your technique. Do you use like a paper calendar? Do you use a combination of paper electronic? How do you juggle that as a single parent and stay on top of your game and make sure that you don't miss appointments and just to get everything done that has to be done? Patty, let's start with you.
Well, I wanted to, first of all, my kids are now, my daughter, it will be in a couple of weeks, 22, my youngest, and my oldest will be 25 in May. So they have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. They have hypermobile type Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And though they had weird issues throughout their life, they had a pretty normal childhood. Then it really kicked in for them, the pain and the dislocations and the mast cell issues and the POTS. Kicked in when they were in their, I think Hannah was 16 and Olivia was 18 when they really started getting sick. So I wasn't dealing with small children. And they were, and of course, when they turned 18 and I was able to say, look, and I didn't do it because I didn't want to be their mom every minute of every day, because I am in the background, still making sure they're doing what they need to do. But I'm not going to be here forever. And I need them to know how to manage the system, to know, especially when you're dealing with an invisible illness, to be able to speak up for yourself and advocate for yourself, and make sure that what's happening is, what it should be happening. And a lot of it, because it's such an unknown disease, and I'm sure you know this too, Nina, when you're trying to explain to a new doctor or somebody, and my kid's disease is multisystemic. I mean, like every system is involved. So, there's so many different doctors involved in their care. And so I thought as soon as they turned 18, I'm like, you're going to have to start doing these things, which was really hard. So I didn't have that long that I was in charge of their care alone. I mean, yes, I don't have any help. I don't have any family. I don't, I do have a friend that will care for them if I have to work or check in on them. I have neighbors that'll help out, but nobody super close to us. It's kind of, I don't know if you've experienced this, Nina, but when you have, both my kids are sick. I don't know if you have any other children, but when both of your kids are sick, people tend to drop out of your life, that were once a part of your life, because you can't do what they're doing. You can't go where they're going. You can't, when my kids at one point, they were both in wheelchairs. I got all the equipment. They can't walk on the beach because their joints will dislocate. So we're turning down all these, it's just hard because people don't, it's scary for them to be with our kids, and people drop out of your life. And, my community and I know I love to advocate for people too, just like you do, Nina. And I feel really close to this community.
Yeah.
just a real kinship that, and there's one group in particular that I belong to for specific. My daughter has POTS, and they are my everything. Like I can yell and vent, and we need to do that. I probably
Yes,
more
we
than,
do.
than most people. You know, we got, um, my kid's dad is not involved at all in their lives, so I don't have any. I did 2 brain surgeries by myself.
Wow.
Yeah, that was scary.
Strong mom. For
You know
my
what? You
daughter,
have a choice, right?
yeah, I think, well, my situation, every, I guess, single parent is a little different in terms of background. And I really appreciate hearing your story because I learn from every parent. I think that's the beauty of parenting, is learning from other parents,
Yes.
regardless of what the diagnosis is. The way I got support, or it was a little different in that I was working full time when my daughter was diagnosed when she was young, and we had the really good fortune of, I was actually still together with my ex, and when she was young, she mostly had nurses. She didn't walk. She is in a wheelchair, and for the most part, we were very, very fortunate for that. Nursing became a challenge. Of course, the family dynamic changed, and I was a single parent. Luckily, dad is still very much part of her life, so he's about 10, 15 minutes away. So we kind of trade off. Now that she's a teen, she likes it. We co-parent, so it's a little different dynamic. But
Yes.
you're absolutely right. People tend to be a little bit afraid of the diagnosis in the beginning. And something that helped me was Curissa May, my nonprofit that I really leaned on in the early years and still do now with the breakthroughs. It was really helpful to educate early those around my circle. So I still have my golden friends, but certain events did kind of either bring people together or maybe made them scatter, like my daughter's back surgery, for example, and I couldn't really do a lot. So I can totally understand some of those, events in a child's life where, you can only focus on medical, and that can be
Yes.
really challenging socially. So I understand what you say. And to Jeff's direct question about how do you manage, here's the real truth, okay, is no one luckily sees me in my house. And I sometimes have to be more flexible with time than I want to be. So I'm either waking up really early to get things done, beating my daughter from waking up, or I stay a little later when she's sleeping. I think a common theme, and I don't know, Patricia, if this is common for you, but for me, it was lack of sleep is a common thing, or it can be one of those challenges, is getting enough rest. So that I've learned the hard way is you really got to pay attention to the rest factor and calendar your time if you can, but be very forgiving if you can't do something. Because I don't know
Absolutely.
about you, Patricia, but I want to do it all, be it all.
Yes. Yep.
You can't
Oh, and
necessarily
you're
do
right
it.
about the sleep. I mean, my daughter was blinded in one eye. She had a Pseudomonas virus, and she needed drops every 2 hours. And since she was in the hospital in the beginning, and there was no sleep for me at all for 3 entire days. And I said, I'm going to lose it. And so I taught my other daughter, who wants to be a doctor, how to put in the drops, because somebody had to
Oh,
be doing it. So
good.
I would sleep during the day, and Hannah would do the drops every 2 hours, and I would get up at night. So we've learned to help each other. We've learned to,
Yes.
there's a lot of things that Hannah can't do because of her illness, because of her POTS mainly. But we kind of all do what we can And also we do it like you, we do it when we can. I mean, I was at Olivia's brain surgery last December and I had a desk set up. I was working on the new catalog. You know, that's what I do. I will sit next to my kids because I don't leave the hospital. If they're in the hospital, I'm staying there. And so,
Right.
you know, I'm just there setting up, working on and it helps me calm myself because I'm doing something good and constructive in a time
Right.
where I'm really internally not okay, you know. But it helps me to focus on something other than, you know, your daughter. It's been 9 hours. They told you it'd be 8 hours. They're not out yet, you know, like.
Right. Right.
Ladies, is just incredible. You know, I mean, in our household, if one of the kids is in the hospital, if Cambria had to go in the hospital or whatever, Eden never left. But I was at least, you know, on that home front side doing everything else that was there. I'm trying to imagine how in the world, you know, like Patty, you know, you had two kids. If one of them is not there, and you know, we don't have any family here either. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's hard. I mean, that's to me the hardest challenge is, okay, and we don't have any care around here. So I have to go to you know, New York to get have Olivia's brain surgery. For Hannah's brain surgery, we were going a month. And, you know, I had friends checking on them. We had the EDS community here in Rhode Island was sending food to Olivia and checking in on her. You know, but that to me, and especially, you know, when I have to travel for work and one of them isn't feeling well or something's going on, it's it's heartbreaking, you know. I just, but I don't have a choice, you know, so I do what I can and put in place the measures that I can to make sure they're safe. Um, and usually, you know, like I will go around the neighborhood and I say, I'm leaving, I'm going to be gone for 3 days, you know, whatever, usually DC or what. And just so you know, the kids are that they'll check in on them and they know they have the girls have everybody's phone number. And one time I came home from a conference and they had made me like, I love you cookies. I was like,
Oh,
so it made it kind of cool to go away and then come back. I'm like, oh, they kind of appreciate me now.
yeah, that's true. It doesn't matter. You know, it's kind of funny that you mention that. I always tease my daughter, who's 15. She's my only child. And I always tease her that, you know, the being away can be really refreshing for both of us. We're very close, but you know, she's very independent and I am too. So we do joke about that because it doesn't matter what, you know, I can't speak for every patient, but I know for my daughter, you know, having that space is so important. You know, that you kind of learn their language in a way
Yeah,
as they're growing, and you have to maintain a little bit of flexibility because what worked when they were younger that might not work as they reach the teen period, and then even as they get older. But you mentioned something before, and I wanted to touch on that, and that was advocate. You know, having the patient advocate for themselves, and so my daughter kind of knew she was a very awake kid and told me after her G-tube surgery, Mom, no more of anything, no
yeah,
more. And I took that to heart. Of course, she was only 5. So, but you know, there's a certain spirit about our kids. And about 10 or 11, you know, my doctor started pushing me to have her start using the portal. We belong to UC Davis system here in Sacramento. And so, you know, the last few video chats is when Milena got a chance to do it herself. And she really, really liked it. At first, she wanted me in the background.
right.
Now she just would rather me not be there, and that's okay.
Yes, yes. Or they'll say, Mom, you know, I have this, like, you know, what do they say? What do they, if I'm not there to, you know,
Right.
Yeah. I'm that mom.
So it's been helpful for them to release them and trust that she knows what she's, that trust that she can summarize for me. And of course, the doctors do a great job following up if they think I missed
My
it.
older daughter she knows all of my passwords. Like when I don't know a password, I'm like, Olivia, what's the password to this? She knows all of the kids in the exhibit, all of the artists that painted them, all of the diseases they have. She's just got this crazy memory. So she when it came to her care, and her doctors, I don't remember her, all of her doctors, and she'll like this, oh, I went to this doctor on this date. And I'm like, I have to write things down because it's
So
overwhelming.
you don't have a portal because is your care consolidated?
No, we're all over the place.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
I want to introduce, sorry to interrupt, but
No.
Melissa is someone who, she just got in joining the panel. I want to get her caught up with us in the conversation and have her jump right in. But Alicia, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And then we'll jump right in with Nina and Patricia.
Sure. My name is Alicia, and I am a mom to 3 girls. My oldest will be 10. My middle is my medically needy one, and she is 8. And then I have a 5-year-old. So we go all the time. And
Wow.
a full-time homeschool mom. And so we've just been trying to navigate this journey for the last, I guess, 8 years, technically 8.5 years. So, but yeah, it's been interesting.
Mind if I ask what your daughter has?
She has panhypopituitarism.
Okay.
And then from there, adrenal insufficiency, Chiari malformation.
Oh my God, my daughters both had Chiari surgery.
Yeah, Lenora had, she was 5. So we're almost 3 years to the anniversary.
Yep.
So yeah. And then a bicuspid aortic valve, just a lot of different midline defect stuff.
Right.
Yeah, I can relate. Cambria has panhypopit.
Yes.
That is what, with the secondary adrenal insufficiency.
Yep.
And as things have went on, we've had, I think we're up to 12 different things now. Some of them are undiagnosed. And the latest one is Scheuermann's disease. So we just found out about that a couple months ago. So it's in there. So what I had asked Patricia and Nina was schedules. As a single parent, how in the world do you juggle your schedule? And I know it's crazy. Do you have a method? Do you use paper? Do you use electronic? Do you run from the house screaming? I mean, it's
That one.
yeah, that one right there. But
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your life and how you juggle this as a single parent.
So definitely a calendar in my phone is a must. And then I also have one on the back of the front door so we can all see it and we all know what's coming up. My oldest specifically is really good about remembering exactly what's happening, when it's happening, and what time it's happening. Right now we have therapy 4 times a week, and they're trying to move that to 5. And all of that's telehealth right now. So it's a double-edged sword of like being thankful that we're at home, but then all of it like really falls on me. So I am a note taker. I have to have my pad of paper when I'm speaking to the doctors or scheduling anything. And then immediately that piece of paper goes into my phone. And the doctors are so funny because anytime we schedule an appointment in office, they'll be like, do you need a card? And I'm always like, yes. I don't know why, because it's in my phone, but I do. I want to cover all of my bases. And so that's been really beneficial to me, just to know that I have, like, if for some reason I can't find it in my phone, I know that I have my pad of paper that goes into Lenora's emergency backpack, and all of her appointment cards are in there as well. So that helps me a lot. When we left the NICU, because we were in the NICU for 7.5 weeks, so I've been keeping this binder for 8.5 years now. They gave me a binder to go home with, and it had like different sections in the binder. And I was like, super overwhelmed, right? Like I couldn't even pronounce what was wrong with her. And now I'm going home with a baby who has a G tube and this binder. And then I realized just how beneficial it was, because it had a place where I could put each doctor's business card in, and it had all of their information on it. And I could store those numbers, or I could just refer to the binder. But it's kind of like Lenora's whole health journey. And I really believe that that is key to me staying on top of things and being able to show her how to handle her health, how to take that over when it comes to the time of her needing to do that. I heard you guys have olders.
Yes,
Older.
mine are 20, going to be 22 in a couple of weeks, and the other one's going to be 25.
That's awesome. How are they doing?
One of them, here, one of them's good at it. One of my oldest daughter is great with the scheduling and right on top of things. I don't even have to remind her to keep doing her physical therapy. And the other one is not so great. It needs a little bit more reminding, and she's also very, very shy. So she does not like to talk to the doctors.
Yeah.
But when she had her brain surgery, she was yelling at people. I think it was because she was her Chiari. She also had the rods put in, the fusion. She had fusion and compression. So she, was uncomfortable and really stood up for herself and her care, with the nurses. And, that's what you want to see. You want them to be able to say, I remember Olivia, when she had her brain surgery, she had thrown up all over the place and nobody was changing her. And this was ICU. It was right after surgery. And I said, because I don't mind doing it, am I going to be her nurse? Because I will change her, but just let me know, because she's been sitting here for quite a while. And she hadn't said any, she was pretty out of it anyway, but, she tends to say less. So I really want them to be like me. I just go in there yelling at everybody.
Listen, when you put in the position of only advocate, you learn to just not stop talking.
No, and because there's not a lot known about Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I do my own research, and oftentimes I'm much more knowledgeable than the people that we're seeing, especially like when she had her eye issues, because that was something new. And and women aren't often heard. And I didn't have a husband with me and there's been studies that show that if a woman goes to a doctor with a husband and he does the talking, they're more likely to listen than if the woman is doing the talking. And I don't know if you found that to be the case, but
well, so my husband was only in the picture with us. I mean, obviously he was there with my youngest, but he's been gone for about 5 years. And so he hasn't really done much of Lenora's care. And when he did, he tried to overstep his bounds. Like he was talking about stuff that he didn't know what he was really talking about. He was just talking to
the doctors.
Yes. Like
my kids' doctors they're like, please, is your ex-husband coming? We really don't want him to be here.
Oh my gosh.
He made it worse.
Yes. And so I realized, because with first of all, did you say that you have Olivia?
Olivia.
Okay. I was like, oh, because my oldest is Lydia. But so I realized that when I walked into a doctor's office with my binder, like they kind of knew that I meant business. Because I remember going into the ER one time, and it was with a male doctor in the ER, and Lenora had a stomach bug, but with panhypopit, that goes south real fast. And so walked in after I had given her entire history. I had her binder with me, the whole 9. And he said, oh, babe, you're not feeling well. Squeezed her belly a little bit and said, we're going to get you some Zofran. Don't worry, Mom. We're going to get her some Zofran. You guys will be out of here soon. And I looked at him and I said, she has adrenal insufficiency. And he turned around and his eyes were about this big. And he said, why wasn't that the first thing you told me? And I said, her file's on the door.
Yeah, right. Right.
And he just stopped and he was like, I said, I have her medical file right here if you'd like to read it, but I don't think we have time for that right now.
Yeah.
So immediately came back after they had drawn blood and gotten her hooked up to IVs and said, I think you might want this. And he handed me a printout of all of her levels. And I went, thanks, I really appreciate it. And then I said,
Wow.
so you know, I'm going to be your favorite by the time we leave, because I'll be as nice as pie, sweet as pie, but not if you're not going to take care of my kid.
Yeah, exactly.
Then
Exactly.
I have issues. And so I feel like just continue, you know, and even with her Chiari, Lenora's Chiari, we went to the neurologist and she had been having headaches for months on end, screaming in pain. We were on like day 13 of vomiting first thing in the morning from all of the pressure in her head. And she
Yeah.
said, I really think that she might just need her prescription checked, her glasses.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, just so you know, she just had it checked on Friday. Today's Tuesday. Her prescription hasn't changed. We
Right.
went to the neurosurgeon and she was herniated 21 millimeters, that her spinal column corked.
Wow.
So it's just, you have to keep pressing in
Oh, yeah,
on
you
that.
absolutely.
You have
to keep pressing.
and I feel like all of their personalities are different, but if they have something that will make them feel secure, be it a binder of their information or whatever they have that they can take control of that information and even just show them without even talking, like,
Maybe I
here's,
should just bring a binder instead of,
I'm
you
telling
know,
you,
I think we've been through a lot of medical trauma. I mean, I don't know, you know, when you guys have a diagnosis like that, you have one of like hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome that they don't even believe is real. My daughter was actually, she was having a really bad POTS flare, and a lot of times we give her IV fluids. And we went to the ER because it was very late at night, and they locked her in the psych ward. And they said, you don't have POTS, you're just dehydrated. And she was locked, she was in there for a week. And yeah, that didn't go over well with me, but I went, and I said to her, you know, because we know a lot of EDSers that have been, you know, accused and falsely accused of Munchausen by proxy and all that. So I said, she was old enough to know, and I said, just play the game until we get out of here. Just because they're not going to let you out before the week is up. Just play the game. And that's what we did to get her out.
So I wanted to ask Nina. Nina, do you are there more siblings? Do you have siblings, or does your daughter have
Oh
siblings?
no, my daughter's an only child, and she's 15. I didn't think I didn't get a chance to say anything. I was so interested in what you ladies had to say. You know, for SMA, you know, because she's 15 and because things have changed so much in our community, the thing about advocacy, or what I've learned, is in the beginning, there were like phases. I don't know if you folks feel the same way, but for me, there were phases where I was learning to be an advocate, and then I started kind of resenting having to educate all my doctors all the time. It was really stressful, and then I would get kind of resentful, and then, you know, be a little snippy about it, because I would get frustrated because I noticed they wouldn't look at their chart at all, or, you know, be prepared, or, but over the years, you know, my care was also very spread out. And then the last 2 years, I decided I had to consolidate care, as I'd lose my mind. And it's made a huge difference because I was able to find physicians all in kind of an umbrella. It took a little bit of trust, though, honestly, on my part to do that, because I had really good insurance, so I could choose any provider I wanted. And so I did, because, you know, I didn't know. But then it just became really difficult to manage, and it really made a difference to have only one provider. Luckily, they have a lot of good providers, and there were a lot of good referrals. So for a long time, though, I felt like a nurse navigator, because my daughter has 8 specialists, and mostly it's respiratory that we keep an eye on, but lately it's been GI. So when you folks talk about multiple layers of complications, my heart goes out, because for me, it was just enough to have two big ones and you're talking several. So I'm really, my heart goes out. I think what I found most satisfying though with providers is once I build trust, it sometimes can take a few months or a few years, but I have to say, I finally won trust. And so even though when I walk in, the C parts kind of, because they know I'm a fierce advocate, everyone parts for me. Okay, when I go in, they're all scattered. But I have to say, my daughter's pediatrician and me really do now see eye to eye, and it's made all the difference.
Yes.
Less battling. I'm so glad to let that go. I don't want to fight with my providers. I don't want to, it's been a real nice change being at that point. And I've realized that I'm really good at flipping a situation. So there's been times, okay, don't say this to anyone, but there has been times when a big institution has almost kicked me out. Okay. And so what I did recently, this was like a few months ago when, everyone was stressed, Sacramento is a hotbed for COVID and everyone's on their last nerve. And for whatever reason, one doctor I wasn't his cup of tea, and that's okay, but he was kind of rude. And then everyone else started getting a little rude, and then I wasn't so pleasant. And then suddenly I get a complaint, and it's like the second one. And suddenly the supervisor is notified, and I get a call, and it was just kind of embarrassing. But I did get a warning from my doctor who stood up for me. And I was like, oh my goodness, how am I going to turn this around? Because I can't afford to really be kicked out of this institution.
Right.
and it was really a great moment of listening. So what was wonderful was this person wanted to hear my story. And oh my God, it was just like for years and years and years, I haven't felt heard by a lot of providers or institutions. So when someone actually finally asked me, what would you like to see? I just couldn't believe I was asked.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So I said to her, I said, well, I think I know what the problem of frustration is for me is when I call in, there's a phone queue, and by the time I get some help, it's 20 minutes in, and it's just too much when I have so much on my plate as a parent of a rare disease kiddo, or a single parent, or whatever it may be. It's just a little too much. And I said, I'm not, upset with your nurses or providers, but just understand that when I finally see you, I'm exhausted half the time. And I'm also worried about my kid. And so she really listened, and she said to me, well, what could be helpful? And I said, well, I hope you get a more direct line into help, because they're a really big institution. So she was taking notes, but at the end of the call, she did something amazing. And she said, you know what? I get you, because I have a kid with some challenges, and I want you to be able to call me if you need me.
Wow.
So I have a direct line to the manager, and she's true to her word. She is not once, even when she's not in the office, she will always call back or always email me. And wow, it's these situations where you can turn emotional intensity into a positive. And we instantly, I've done this multiple times now, not because I want to, but it happens, right? There's an intense moment, but you can flip that intense moment with goodwill. And I think that's where I realized, wow, I think I'm doing better as an advocate, because I've been able to save a relationship, save a situation, not that we ever really want to go to the edge like that, but it's really important to know how to do that.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
I have another question. We have about 20 minutes left, so it's been great discussion. It's amazing. But as single parents, how did you juggle? And I know that like some of you you may work your own entrepreneur, but how did you juggle the work with the illness and all of the doctor's visits and that type of thing, and being there by yourself? Don't care who started. Alicia, why don't we start with you? How do you handle like work and um, illness?
I do a great job with it. I have my mom who helps out a lot. So she, especially since COVID, you can't take the other kids to doctor's appointments. And so that's a really
Wow.
difficult time. And so I've been able to, my mom has gotten a job to where I can leave her with the other two, and the people that she nannies for loves them. And so it actually has really worked out. But before that, it was kind of the whole reason that I homeschool with the girls is because we are on the go most of the time. Being in Central Florida, we are from an hour at the very least from any of her specialists. And so it's constantly driving at least an hour. And that's where we did our lessons. That's where we did our homeschooling, was in the car, because we could get school done and also get an appointment out of the way. And also trying really hard to schedule those appointments that were, if we could handle it on the same day, so we weren't traveling back and forth multiple times a week, was helpful. I really liked what you said about having the relationship with the doctors, Nina, because we've been very thankful. I've been very thankful with having really great doctors who, for the most part, have been on the same page with me. And if not, we agree to disagree in a kind way. and I do have direct lines or emails to her doctors, and her newest endocrinologist actually calls me, and so I see the number come up on my phone, and I'm like, surely it's a nurse, and she's like, hey, Alicia, it's Dr. Da-da-da-da. And I'm like, whoa, you're
That is amazing when they do that.
Right.
It is because I think they are just they being any of the doctors are just so used to seeing families, and that's just what they do. Like, they live it day in and day out. But what they don't understand is, especially as a single parent, we are exhausted. We are at our max. We have nothing left to give most often. And so when we can be kind, and we are, it's like the last little bit of anything. And so when you see them appreciate that you've been kind, it's so nice being heard, because sometimes I just don't have it left, I'm just like, right. I have a 5-year-old running around like a lunatic. I have my 8-year-old who, is on meds to stay alive. I have, it's just a lot. And so, I don't know if that answered your question, Jeff, at all. I'm sorry. I just ramble sometimes.
Well, no, actually, that's very good. Nina, how about you? How did you handle like the work environment? And
it's called, well, when I was full-time in my career, it was called FMLA. So I had the good fortune of, working at Cisco Systems, and they have great benefits. It's a huge company. And I had to lean in to FMLA. I had to finally tally it because I was so curious, the impact of, and Milena doesn't even go to the hospital that frequently, but when she was younger, she did have pneumonias and things. And so, boy, if it wasn't for FMLA, I don't know how I really would have been able to have a career for 16 years. I mean, it wasn't easy the last part of that few years, especially, but that was really like my lifeline was FMLA, the fact that I had nurses. It was kind of like I had to hoard the FMLA too. It was just really difficult, the financial toll. When I look at my past career, it looks like I had used an entire year's worth of FMLA if I added it all together. And that's not even that much compared to other families that have had to leverage FMLA and do a lot of juggling. But that's really what I was relying on, or even to this day, sometimes I have to tag team it with my ex, and he's okay with it. So we really try to flex, but my parents are older, and they're an hour away, so we just have to make it work very creatively there.
Thank you for sharing. And Patricia, how about you? You know,
Well,
what do you do?
I started my nonprofit when Olivia was having spinal cord surgery that night. I said, oh, I think I'm going to start a nonprofit where I'm going to work by state. And because at the time, legislatively, nothing was really happening. And I'm thinking we could do things by state. And then if we get enough states, then we can make it into a federal legislation. And so I was planning this all out at my daughter's bedside. And I was noticing that most of the Rare Disease Day events were disease specific at that time, a long time ago. Not like like we are today. So I had started my nonprofit. Of course, nonprofit means no profit. So literally, I mean, it wasn't like it was a financial boon for me. I didn't make any money for years and years and years, and I still make a middling salary, but I don't do it for I don't do it. I think working in the space has saved me and created something for me that has kept me going. I've done odd jobs. I've cleaned houses when I had to earn money, and I couldn't take a job because I couldn't take a job and then go for a month and be, my daughters were in physical therapy. At one point, they were both going to physical therapy, and it was just constant doctor's appointments day in and day out, and you never know with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome when something's going to happen, and what issues are going to come up. And it would just became so I realized that I was never going to be able to, and especially at, I'm 60 years old, getting a job in your 50s and 60s after I had quit my career when I had to stay home with my kids, and it was really difficult. So thankfully the courts, my daughters are both on disability, and the courts, I have court ordered child support, and I would much rather have the emotional and physical support than have the money. That's not a lot, but it's helpful. And I think that, for me, the worst part of being a single mom and having two sick kids is that my first thought when when Olivia was blinded suddenly, it happened so fast. That infection got so bad so quickly, and it was so shocking because it didn't have anything to do with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, that the first person I called was their dad. And I, needed someone to be around me that loved them the way that I could commiserate with, and I thought he would be the one throughout their health challenges that I would be able to commiserate with. And it's not how it's turned out. And even every time there's something major, I still will make that call, and I am repeatedly disappointed. But I don't have that person. And I know, Alicia, you don't either. You don't have that person who you think is going to be that other part of what your kids are and what they're going through, and that you can get that, just sit there and cry for your kid with this other human being. And not having that was just, it shocked me, because first of all, how can you not be there for your children when they're sick? But it just shocked me. And it was, to me, it's tragic that, he's not part of our lives, but
I'm very sorry about that, Patty. You know,
No, it's not. I don't want any, it's just
I
for
know
me,
that, but I'm
like,
just saying that, you know, we had a rare dads panel earlier today, and one of the dads was on there. He's from California, and he made a very sound statement. So I know that there may be people that watch this, that the relationship might be on the cusp, but I'll speak to the dads in this and saying, you have a choice. You can either fight or fly.
yeah.
Stand up and fight. Stop being a baby. Stand up and fight.
Yeah,
Be there,
Eden the
be
other
there
day,
for each other.
Eden
Yeah,
I
texted
think they
me.
wanted to cramp their lifestyle, you know?
there you go. Yeah,
Well,
with that.
yeah.
I know we're almost out of time, but I wanted to ask you all just one thing for single parents that are out there. So often you reach this point of just desperation that, you know, you do have your friends of the community, but what is something that you do to maintain hope? As human beings, that is the one thing that we cling to, is that hope for tomorrow. To get through today and pick it up and do it again tomorrow. What is something that you do to help give that positive reinforcement to yourself? And Elisa, let's start with you. Just quickly share something with that.
Um, well, I have my faith, so that's one thing that's very big for me. But also, specifically with Lenora, just seeing seeing the progress, celebrating the little things, like the little things. Like she knows how to hold her pencil correctly when she has a special grip. You know, we celebrate everything, and I try really hard to make that time special for all three of my girls and really involve all of them in it. But truly just celebrating stuff that you might think is absolutely ridiculous. Like no one else is going to understand why you're celebrating it, but it's their stuffed animal's birthday and they love it. And so we're going to throw a party, because life is so sad to begin with, much less when you throw anything rare on top of it and then throw being a single parent on top of that. That's really the only thing that gets us through, is really just celebrating little things, you know?
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Me too.
Nina, how about you?
Gosh, that's a hard, I don't know how I do it really. I think it's hope. I mean, hope is everywhere for me. I guess I'm an optimist. My nature is optimistic. I get it from my mom's side for sure, not my dad. And, I'm grateful that I have my parents, honestly. I think they've really been, when things get tough, pretty soon they're not going to be around. But I think in terms of that strength and hopeful attitude, I definitely have a lot to be grateful for. So gratefulness really helps me when my back is against the wall. Like when the chips are down, the mindset of being grateful really carries me through. And I think that's, to my credit of my mom and also my daughter. I think, there's so much compassion. It's really expanded my heart to know so many rare individuals of all stripes, right? I'm wearing my stripes, but that gives me hope. Just the incredible will to live regardless really stokes my fire. So events like this, and just the fact that we have a huge community, that we're not alone, that helps me a lot when I'm feeling stressed.
And Patricia, you've been doing this the longest of any of us that's on right now.
Yeah.
How did you do it?
Yeah.
I'm a doer. You probably know that from, if you know anything about my career over the past 10 years, I'm everywhere. But I started doing research into my daughter's disease. And I found that even though I was a D student in high school, that I really like science, and it was chemistry even, which is shocking. So I have been doing a lot of research. I've actually found a treatment for my kids that has been very, very successful, and with their mast cell disorder. And I also started working in tethered spinal cord, and I'm going to be published.
Wow.
Discovered something about, it's actually affects a lot of different rare diseases, tethered spinal cord syndrome. And I discovered that. And now I'm working with the leading specialists in the world to get a paper out there. We've done one disease, and then we're going to start working on the other diseases that we've discovered that it is. So I do a lot of, people will be like on Facebook, I'll post something at 3 a.m. like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm researching. So for me, being actively
Right.
changing what's happening to my children, like I can put stuff down and go, okay, I can pick up this research book and keep looking at, around for something to fix POTS, so that's I don't know if that came from who I was before. I don't think I was like that before. I think it just came from a survival type thing, because I was on my own and I had to survive, and I had to find a way that gave my life, a lot of purpose, or I would sink into despair, really, and fear. I think more fear than despair, because there's so many unknowns with EDS. But yes, we also have those crazy, I think, and you guys probably all do this too. Like, we make jokes that other people, I'm sure, would find totally inappropriate. The jokes we make with our kids, despite their challenges.
I always say, if you don't laugh, you'll cry.
Absolutely.
There you go. Yeah.
But I think people would find it horrifying. Like, oh my God, about your child. I'm like I'll say to my daughter, she'll bump into something. I'm like, what, are you blind? Yes. Yes, I am.
Yes, I am. In our house, I had to tell my mother-in-law one time, she was a very reserved individual. And my girls started just dancing in the middle of the day. They turned on music, they cranked it up, and they danced. And she was having a fit. And I said, no. I said, this is how it is. I said, Cambria's almost died 4 times. I said, they dance. If they want to dance, they dance.
That's right.
It's not something
where it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's in the middle of my home. They can dance.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you know what? I wanted to say this to each of you. And it was demonstrated when we had technical difficulties today. There is tenacity with you ladies. That Alicia, you kept trying. And you got on this panel, and your contribution has been amazing. Nina, you fought the fight with it. Patty, you fought it during a time when nobody even knew what rare disease were. Rare disease thought that you were just weird.
Yes.
With this. Thank you all for your contribution, and thank you for being there for your children and to fighting that fight. And I know we're out of time. I just want to say how grateful I am from my heart. And I know that Eden is too, with this and having this, being able to see you and talk to you. Just appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here. And thank you for being a part of this.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm
Yeah,
with you guys on Facebook.
Yes.
We will see you ladies. Thank you so much.
You guys.
Bye-bye.